two of the biggest events that happen here in October. October is a very special time here in Merida, but two of the biggest events, or one happens in October, one happens in like January, the Paseo de Animas. The Paseo de Animas is basically where folks dress up and put paint on their faces and they walk through the graveyard. I went to that event 2 years ago. I think I told you in a previous video that the Noche de Catrinas was the Paseo de Animas, and I was mistaken. So the Paseo de Animas is a thing that actually took place in the cemetery, and there were about 70,000 people. Well, they've decided to cancel that event in person and only do it on television and virtual again this year. The other thing that was canceled for being in person is Carnival. There's a huge carnival that happens here in Merida. It's been, a few years it was downtown. A couple of years later, it was in Progreso. When we got here, it was actually in Progreso. And it's really just a big parade with lots of floats and people celebrating the carnival season. Well, Carnival has been canceled until 2020. The 2022 Carnival has been canceled and will also be virtual, and it will take place again, hopefully in person in 2023. So those are two big events that, even though we're making some progress with reopening the economy, those two events have been canceled. One of the things that is back, however, is the 45-foot Coca-Cola tree that happens here in Merida. It's on Prolongation Montejo in the Chedraui or Decathlon parking lot. This thing is 45 meters, not 45 feet, but 45 meters or 155 feet. And it was actually, last year was the silver anniversary of this tree. And, of course, unfortunately, the tree didn't happen last year because of the pandemic and where things were, but it's happening this year. They're actually putting it up right now. It takes about a month and a half to get this tree up, and they're putting it up right now. It's something huge, very amazing. It's actually sponsored by Coca-Cola. I don't know if you know this, but the Yucatan is one of the biggest consumers of Coke products, I think, in the world. And so Coca-Cola has a lot of money here. It's not uncommon to see construction workers and just workers in general two-fisting a 2-liter bottle and walking to work in the morning as their thing to drink. So Coca-Cola products are everywhere, and it's consumed more here than I think any other place in the world. So that is something to know. But this Coca-Cola spectacular that they did around the tree was like any Disney or Broadway production that you've ever seen. It had pyrotechnics, it had professional actors on stage. It was incredible, and it was completely free, and it was around the Christmas tree. I don't think that part's gonna happen. There was also a little fair that happened. I'm not certain if any of those things are gonna happen because of the pandemic, but it might, because it was outside and there were limited seats and you could socially distance. So we'll see if that happens. But it ran for the entire month of like December. I think it actually started sometime in November and it ran all the way to like January. So it was pretty awesome, pretty cool to see. And if I haven't said this before, Merida has more festive spirit than any other place I've ever been. They decorate all the roundabouts called glorietas. They decorate the streets. It's pretty amazing to see a place where it doesn't snow get so intrigued and so involved with Christmas. It's also a big religious holiday. As you can imagine, this being a Catholic culture, it's a huge religious holiday, and they celebrate for like 2 weeks. So that is all happening, the Coca-Cola tree. So things are starting to look and feel like it was in 2019 for us here in the state of the Yucatan, which is nice. Okay, so switching gears just a little bit. This is a more grim story, and I try to only tell you things that are informative, that are going to help you with your move. But to me, this is a social issue. As a man as a father who has a young daughter who's raised them in this culture, in this society, I think it's something important for most folks to know. So there have been many, many protests in the last couple of weeks for women's rights, right? And the biggest women's rights issue that happened recently was the right to abort. The Supreme Court ruled it illegal for states to implement laws that says that the conception happens, or that the right to life happens at conception. And so they've made that illegal. They've said, nope, that's not correct. You can't prosecute or you can't do anything based on that. Now, keep in mind the culture that we're in. This is a highly religious culture and it's Catholic. And so a lot of the laws are going to be based on that. There's also the system of, machismo, which also affects a lot of things. And so there have been many protests for just women's rights and, the ability for women to have equal rights in a lot of areas. Even in Merida, just last week, there was a protest of a lot of blue flags and folks marching on the streets and what have you. So this is something I'm paying attention to as a father because I need to understand, what things are like for women here, particularly raising a daughter, what things are like for women here in this culture, in this state. That's definitely something that's important to me. Now, one of the things that was in the article or in the paper this week was the fact that there's been an increase in domestic violence. One of the reasons the governor cited, or implemented the ley seca was because of the culture where, people would be at home, they're locked down, they're in quarantine, where we couldn't leave. When they locked down the streets, they locked down the streets. You couldn't go out for a walk even when the pandemic first began and they locked down the streets. And so at that time, they were concerned that people would be at home drinking and then have an increase in domestic violence. And in fact, there was an increase in domestic violence. But year over year, there have been 26 states with a huge increase in domestic violence. So the crime is actually a lot worse than what's reported because 90% of the folks that are victims of domestic violence don't even report the crime. And so there's been an increase of 20% here in the state of Yucatan in the first 8 months of the year from January to August in reports of domestic violence. That's over 171,000 cases of domestic violence. There are 91 cases per month of domestic violence here in the state of Yucatan, and those are the ones that are reported. Now, I don't know, exactly what the laws are around domestic violence. I don't know if they're like in the states where, if you call the police, somebody's going to jail, right? I don't know if that's the case here in the state of the Yucatan or in this culture. And so I definitely want to make sure I understand it. I'm only reporting this because this week has been a huge week for protests and demonstrations for women's rights. So I thought it was important for you guys to understand that, to start to look at this issue as a part of your move and your research here to Merida, moving to Mexico. So that was that story. Pound that like button. If there's anything that you found in this video today that was helpful, that was useful, do me a favor and hit that like button. If I could get everybody that watches the video just to hit the like button, whew, that would be awesome. So do me a favor, do me the honor and hit that like button. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time. Mexitplans Monty, I'm out.